Today I'm taking on the challenge of removing 5 years of built up black box dye. So if you want to see how I did it, stick around. So you may be looking at this and thinking, that is not black hair, and you are right. This is my client who is just coming to me for the first time today, and what she's done in preparation for this color correction appointment is she's done 2 rounds herself at home of Color Oops color remover. So she has patches of black in her hair, which have, I guess, been missed by the Color Oops that she's done at home, but overall that's why her hair looks very deep dark red burgundy right now, because she has done those 2 color remover sessions at home, which I definitely suggest clients do before a color correction appointment if they're removing years of built up black box dye. For anybody who wants to know what type of black box dye she used Garnier Olia. She used equal parts, I believe, of the 2.0 and the 3.0, which I'm gonna attach right here. This is the 2.0. It's black. This is black box dye. And then this is the 3.0, which is a very, very dark brown, but it ends up looking black anyways. So we started out by treating her hair with K18 because we know that we are going to be doing some pretty intense bleaching today. We want to make sure that her hair integrity stays as good as possible and that we take as much care of her hair while we still try to remove this really heavy, like built up pigment in her hair. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how she applies this at home and everything and what I did today. So if you are new to my channel, make sure to like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram at Bleach Daddy. So today we did a little bit of experimenting with our lightener. What we used Schwarzkopf Blonde Me, and I just started out with a couple scoops at a time of this, and I used it in this really, really big bowl that Framar gave me. And I like these bowls because I can mix 2 to 3 scoops of lightener at a time for big jobs like this and not feel like I'm overfilling the bowl. And so I'm mixing this with Blonde Me 7 volume developer and a little bit of the 30 because we ran out of 20 today. Essentially, I'm trying to make like a mix of 7 and 20, so that's why I'm using very little of the 30 to begin with. But I don't feel like 7 volume is going to be quite enough power, and I feel like 30 volume is going to be a little bit too much power. So I'm mixing to a consistency that I feel is going to be comfortable. I don't always weigh my lightener formulas, which is, I know, a big hairdresser no-no, but I like to mix to consistency. And the consistency I'm wanting to work with today is a little bit more of a Greek yogurt, because I find that that consistency is very powerful for lifting very, very light, very many levels, but it also doesn't dry out too fast. So this is me mixing it in, and then I'm going to be adding in something that I haven't really used before. I'm a little nervous to use this today, but it's been sent to me by one of my subscribers on YouTube, and I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to use it because we have so much red pigment in the hair that we want to neutralize. So I'm going to be adding in Matte Additive by Blonde Me. And when I think matte, I think green, but this is super, super, super blue. So I'm actually really happy that this is blue because it's a little bit less scary than using directly green on red hair. Blue will help fight some of those orange pigments. The bleach will eat through some of those red pigments. We're hoping to lift it up quite a lot and get her hair to hopefully a level 8, 9, because the pictures she showed me were those iconic Rachel Green from Friends in season 6 when she's dating Tag, and she has those beautiful extensions in, and her hair is like a natural level 7 with level 8.5, 9 highlights. It's gorgeous. That's what we're aiming for down the road. Today, we're just trying to even out our canvas because, again, this is color correction, not color perfection. And the camera didn't really pick up too much of like the condition of her hair here, but what I was kind of hoping to catch here was the patchiness of her hair, because her hair color had been applied for 5 years regularly at home. It was black box dye every time. It was the same one. And she applied it, I think it was every few weeks she applied to just the front and the top. So we know that the front and the top has a lot more layered over color than the back and underneath does. So we're going to have to do that a second time. But because it's been done at home, she has a ton of hair and she can't really see the back. There is some patchiness with both her application for her color and for her color remover. So essentially today's plan is to even out our canvas as much as possible. And what we're going to do is in the future, we're going to work towards that color placement that Rachel Green has in Friends. So I'm using my paddle here today because that's going to give me a really good surface to make sure that all of my saturation is even everywhere and that everything is evenly applied. And I'm using these foils here by Framer, and you can see that I'm placing them kind of halfway down the hair shaft, and that's because that's that kind of danger zone that doesn't like to get too warm. Everything up near the scalp gets warm, but this like middle kind of like danger zone when you're doing color corrections, that kind of cools off really quick because it's this empty space, and it's got tons of color reapplication on it. It's got lots of staining over the years, and you still need it to stay warm and insulated and wet for it to keep going. The ends we're not super concerned about. I'm not really worried about really saturating these ends too much because she did tell me she's okay with cutting off like 3 to 4 inches of her hair today, and she feels like she needs to anyways. So those aren't a priority for me to wrap up and roll up into the foil. I'm just letting this all sit evenly on the Framer back bib. And the plan here is to not really have the hair fold up into the foil because I want everything to lay out flat and even so that we get as much of even like distribution of the heat from the body and the head and everything everywhere. And it's kind of hard to explain, but the more consistent you are with everything everywhere, the more consistent your lift will be. And because we're working with such a patchy, uneven surface, we are wanting to even that out as much as possible. For using a paddle, I like to coat my surface of my paddle with lightener before I apply any lightener to the top of the hair, because that ensures that everything is getting properly saturated. When you're working fast like this, well, I mean, this doesn't look fast, but you're trying to coat the whole head of hair in bleach within like honestly 45 minutes to an hour. So it's kind of fast. You want to make sure that everything has even coating and distribution of the product. So that's why I do like to coat my paddle with lightener underneath so I have no missed patches. So if you're new to color correcting, saturation is going to be your number one thing that you're probably going to have some difficulty with. Saturation and speed. I'm also really liking to use these really wide Framer brushes because they pack that product on, and with proper pressure, they really even out the distribution of this lightener. And when I turn them to the side, I can utilize them to kind of spread open the hair, make sure that lightener gets into that middle area and that nothing is left untouched. Because when you're lifting this many levels, you're going to notice when one area wasn't saturated properly. I'm also trying to not really touch the scalp or the root area. I'm trying to leave out her natural root, but also make sure that I get all of the previous black box dye. And that's because we're going to be trying to match her natural root color with our toner today. And I'll show you how I do that as well. This is just another angle. You could see how much foils I've gone through already at this point, and we're kind of in like the last third of her head, and how I'm utilizing my brush to evenly coat everything. And something that's very important to note, that if you are, again, new to this channel and haven't been watching my other color correction videos, one of my rules for saturation and an even lift is to always have fresh bowls. So every 15 minutes I am mixing new product, and I'm not using any old product. And that's so that the power of the lightener doesn't get used up in the bowl while it's sitting waiting to be applied to the hair, that the product is always fresh, and the freshest products always yield the most even results, especially, yes, because we are trying to lift so many levels. And overall, because her hair has never been bleached before, well, at least this length of this hair. I mean, when she was a kid, she had told me she bleached it, but this hair has never been bleached before. We're not super concerned health-wise for her hair, like melting off with any kind of like, over processing or anything. It would more so be the concern of having her hair have a bad chemical reaction, which is another reason why I really like Color Oops, and for clients to use that if they have a global color all over their hair, done beforehand, because I find that that removes other heavy chemicals as well into the hair that can sometimes have a really bad reaction with lightener. So this isn't something I'd recommend that everybody do at home before a color correction, but if you have a bunch of box dye in your hair, I think Color Oops is a fantastic product that you can just get from like Sally's or wherever and apply to your own hair at home. And it just, again, evens everything out. It pulls out heavy color molecules that, the bleach just isn't going to want to eat through all of those layers of everything, and then try to lighten your hair as well is a ton of work. And Color Oops, I find, really does really lighten the load for my lightener here. Once we're done applying the lightener, I am going to make sure that the head is wrapped up and it is ensured that the insulation is going to keep everything warm and moist so that the lightener can keep processing, because she's going to have to sit for quite a long time with this in her hair so it can, slowly eat through all of that color pigment and see what kind of color we can end up with next, because we know we're going to have still quite a bit of unevenness in the front and in the top for where she used to reapply her color more often, and that's where she would start with her application as well. So we know we're going to have some pretty intense staining in those areas. And so this is what she looks like while she is processing. She's going to sit there for a while. And after probably hour and a half, I think, I took out her foils and I squeegeed all of that lightener into a garbage can so it doesn't go down my drains. And this is what her hair looks like with lightener on it. Now, it looks very promising, but that's because it's coated in a super blue pigmented lightener. And the super blue pigment is neutralizing the look of how orange her hair really is. And you could see from the difference from the front to the back, there's still so much orange staining in these front pieces that still have yet to be lifted out. So we're going to rinse that. And this is what her hair looks like when it's rinsed. It is looking so good so far. We don't have to worry about any red tones in her hair anymore. She just has some kind of gold tones and yellow tones. And you can see the progression of the staining from roots down to ends, and that there's like this slow ombre of yellow to gold. And that's okay. That's what we're going to expect with something like this. We've left her roots out, and now our next big challenge is to match the roots with a toner color. And so we can tone all of her hair together. You can see the difference between the yellow and the orange right there. So we can tone her hair all together, and then we're going to do our next step to try to give her a little bit more dimension and a little bit more blonding in some of those more orangey areas. Again, here is another little comparison side by side. When you take the ends to the top, there is a difference. It's just a slow ombre from one color into the next when you actually look at it when it's all laying flat. But overall, we got a really, really great lift here. So now we are going to be doing our toner formulation, and we're going to try to match her natural root color. So I'm utilizing 30 grams of 8 Natural 8-O and 30 grams of 9-55, which is level 9 Gold as our base. That's going to be what fills the hair. That's going to be what prevents everything from going too ashy and hollow. And I know that you see a lot of yellow and orange in her hair already, but too bad we're using more of it in our toner, because it's very important to use this to fill and hold the rest of the toner in and create a natural looking base for her natural warm looking root. So we're also utilizing 20 grams of 9-42. And that is a level 9 beige ash, and that -2 is more of like a navy toned ash, so it has quite a bit of neutralizing power in that, so that's going to help with our more gold tones. And the -4 is going to be a cool based beige. And then we have 10 grams of 8-19, and I added that one in there because the -19 is there to kind of neutralize super yellowy tones. And I know that mixing in warm tones and cool tones might seem a little strange to some people, but I found it's the best way to ensure that your toner has a natural look to it. Even when you have a color like hers that is naturally a warmer level 8, and she has so much yellow and orange in the lift of her hair, I think that when you have added gold and browns and naturals and a little tiny bit of orange as well into these toner formulations, it mimics the look of natural hair that's been uncolored and virgin hair because it has that shine to it. If you only have ash colors in your toner formulations and you're wondering why your hair always looks so hollow and maybe it kind of looks a little bit lifeless or dull or damaged, that's probably because you don't have any warm colors added in, because the warmth always mimics that health of natural hair and the shine, and it's reflective. And if you mix in warm and cool, they neutralize each other out and create something that's just super beautiful. And as you can see, it's already depositing really well into her hair, and that means her hair is really soaking it up. She has very porous hair, and I didn't want to mix any sevens into this because I was a little nervous that because her hair is so porous, it would over absorb toner and darken everything. So we are going to start with a lighter formula. It's like a level 8.5. And then if need be, we can reapply the same formula or a slightly darker one if we find that there's still a little bit of porosity issues in here. And this is essentially a fill. This is going to balance out our canvas, fill in any gaps, and then we're going to do our next step to give her a little bit more dimension and to brighten up those sides and tops. But overall, this is a really great toner formula for anyone in that level 8 zone that you need to just formulate everywhere the same thing to try to make one solid look everywhere. This is what our hair looks like as it's processing, and I'm going to show you what it looked like as it's rinsed out, because I'm really, really happy with this toner formula. I want you to take a look at that root and tell me if you can see the difference of where her root starts and where the bleaching starts. This was just after the one application had sat for its full processing time and I rinsed it out. The roots are already looking so seamless, but because I do want to see a longer lasting result and make sure that that toner has a longer lifetime, I'm going to reapply the exact same toner to her roots. And I mean, before I do that, I'm applying K18 everywhere because we're doing 2 treatments today because we're about to bleach her hair again in some areas. But this is why I'm applying to the roots again, because I want to make sure that everything has a long last to it. She can grow her hair for a long time before she comes back for some little baby lights. And overall, I love that formula so much. I'm just punching it in a second time, and that's going to overall just give me a really even look everywhere. I definitely recommend this toner formulation for anybody who likes a level 8 that's on like the slightly warmer side, like a sunny natural blonde, because again, it has a really good balance of that warm and that cool together. As that root touch-up sits, I am going to be applying a wet balayage today. I'm using one of my Framer brushes to gently comb through some of that color, and that's going to create a really soft, seamless blend from one into the other. So what I'm doing is I'm using, I believe it was like a 7 volume and Blonde Me mixture, and I did still use the matte additive because I do appreciate how much extra blue pigment it added to fight those orange tones. I just didn't use quite as much in this formulation here because I don't want to accidentally turn like the hair green or anything, but that extra bit of matte additive really helps. So I am wet balayaging, and the reason why I'm doing that is because the hair being a little bit on the more damp side with our water and then also a K18 treatment on top of that, it's like a diluted version of a regular balayage. And we are using the paddle again just so that we can get really good saturation. This is a pretty fast application. It didn't take me very long to do. I'm just picking out the spots of her hair that had the most orange staining, which is again around the face and at the top. And then I'm going to be going around to the back and applying some with my glove covered hands to the very ends of the hair to give her a little bit more of that brightened ends look, because we decided that for today's appointment what we wanted was to have a soft root that she can grow out for a very long time so that it just blends into her blonding. But I also thought that maybe making the executive decision of keeping her on the lighter side rather than toning everything down after back to this level 8 was going to be the best option, because if she decides that she wants to be darker after this appointment, then that's a lot easier to solve. We just put whatever color toner she wants on top of it, and because her hair is super porous, it'll absorb it and take onto that color nicely. But if I were to tone this down to the level 8 again and give her more of that beigey tone, and she decided she wanted to be lighter, I just don't think it'd be good to do another bleaching, even though her hair handled this bleaching and the previous one really well. We don't want to push the hair beyond its limits. We still want to prioritize having really healthy hair and really beautiful hair rather than having really, really light hair. So I always like to start off with the lightest possible option for my guests and kind of go from there. If they decide a week later they want to go darker, that's totally okay. It's easy to do, it's no big problem, and it's not damaging. And I just remembered that because we didn't have any footage of me toning at the sink or doing her haircut or her blow dry or her styling, what you're going to see next is right in the middle of golden hour where the sun is setting. So after this process here, I mean, the hair looks beautiful and light and blonde, and it does have a little bit of a golden tone to it, but not nearly as much as you're going to see in the final shot and results. But just keep that in mind that our final shot is shot in golden hour outside, so it's adding a ton more orange to what it really looks like in reality. But this is our final shot here. Her hair feels amazing thanks to the K18 treatments and the care that we took today. She has a very soft gradient from her root down to, the first few inches until she's just like super solidly blonde, which is awesome. But of course, I want you guys to take into consideration how much orange is being added to this look right now just because it is golden hour and the sun is setting right behind us. There's so much red in the sky, but that's reflecting onto her hair. But overall, she's a beautiful sunny blonde, and we're so, so happy with this result. We can't wait to see what the future looks like for her hair. And overall, my client was super, super stoked about this. And I want to know what you guys think. And so please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought about this process. And remember to like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram at BleachDaddy. See you guys next time.